can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh Lord, oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord.
Hello everybody and welcome to the 17th running of the VTuber Racing 2024 season. We are in the tip-top Wisconsin at Old Spice Speedway, a fantasy track from the classic EA NASCAR games. For those that have never played a game from the EA sports titles, you will see a very interesting road course race here today. A road course very like Riverside, the very classic California track. Today will be the 17th running of this series, and speaking of this series, quickly before we get into the starting lineup and down to the racetrack, quick look at the points here. We'll only really be spotlighting the top 10 at the moment, because right now it seems to be that there's only about 10 drivers that have a feasible shot at making a run for the championship. And as of today, it only sits to be 5, maybe 6 drivers that can theoretically take the points lead away today. As we look at the stats here, we see Aria with the 25 points lead over the number 69 Bell, who gained a spot after a well showing at Bristol last week. But they sit 25 points back, and William 10 points behind them in 3rd place. Noriboshi at 4th, and Soleil back to 5th. And then Merriweather sits at 6th, not gaining or losing anything from Bristol. However, they are the last driver, at least inside the top 6, that have a chance to come out of this race with a points lead. They are, however, a bona fide long shot, sitting 40 points back in 6th place. So I won't go over too much detail into anything else here. But I will quickly point out the next 2 races already, just before we send it down to trackside for today's race. 130 laps around this track. Next race we will be at the Twin Ring Motegi course over in Japan, and then we'll be back in Wisconsin for Milwaukee. So, with that out of the way, just so we don't get too far into this intro, we'll quickly set it down trackside. And this is where we will have our starting lineup for today's race. As you'll see on the left side, maybe the right side of the screen. Again, not the greatest in terms of putting it in post-editing, but again, qualifying, we're going to quickly run through it. Weeaboo is on the pole for today's race. They get it after a not-so-great finish at Bristol last week. They start to the, I want to say, left side of Fifi. Back in row 2, we have Kason and last week's dominator of Risu. They'll start 4th. Lubid starts back in 5th. Last week's pole sitter finished in the bottom 30s last week after an engine malfunction. They'll sit in 5th, though, for today's race, with Lumi in 6th. 7th place goes to Soleil, the highest out of the top 5 in the points so far. They'll start next to last week's winner of Iron Mouse. Doki Bird will start in the 9th spot today, alongside 2nd place in points of Bell. 11th place goes to Hano Mizuki, 12th is Fillion, 13th starting spot goes to Henya, 14th goes to Lucky, 15th goes to Fruit, 16th goes to Tyroki. Dreamer starts 17th, Watson starts 18th, William starts 19th, Noriboshi starts 20th. Kyoso will start 21st, 22nd will be David, 23rd is D, 24th is Nana, Fu starts 25th. 6th place in points, Meriwether starts 26th. Cebu starts 27th. Cali starts 28th. Bao starts 29th. Kobo will start 30th. Devious Sprite will start 31st. Our points leader starts deep in the field in 32nd. Melody will start 33rd. Bimble will start 34th. DM will start 35th. And in the last 2 spots, we have Gura and Overdrive. Those are your starting lineup for today's race. We'll take, for this pace lap, we will take a quick onboard look around this track, a quick drive through the entirety of this track to see what these drivers are going to be dealing with. So, past the start-finish line, this will be a very long straight underneath a bridge. A high-speed straightaway, and they'll have to immediately dart onto the brakes as they sweep through into turn 2. And then another right-hander. And then a halfway decently long straight here, getting some speed up through a couple gears. This is the tightest, one of the tightest turns in the course, as they'll come into turns 4 here. Slide all the way to the right. A little bit of banking on the right side there. And now you want to keep an eye on here as we go into turns 5 and 6. A slight right-hander sweeps into a left-hander. And just to the right is where you'll find the entrance to pit road, where the pace car will soon dart off. There goes the pace car. Pit lane entrance starts on the right side here, and it's a very, very long pit lane. Throughout this entirety, pit lane starts right where that pace car was just at with that line, underneath that bridge, through this very long straight here, just as long as the front stretch, where we will see the start-finish line once more, after a very tight hairpin turn, the tightest of them all. And that's where the 11 of Weeboo is going to send us to the green flag. 130 laps around Old Spice, and we are underway. They'll fan out 3, maybe 4 wide back there as they were all restarting. And with that in mind, Fifi and Risu take home the first 2 spots. First side-by-side battle goes to Weeboo with Lumi for 3rd. Fifi slides up just a little bit, opening, and it's a wide enough track to fit side-by-side and 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide through most, if not a lot of this track. Fifi slides in, good move there by the 53. Risu slides up, gives Weeboo a chance. Oh, almost had a shot there. Close quarter action here between the top 2 as they dart through turns 5 and 6 and into the finals turn here. It is not a big road course by any means, but it is still high speed. Fifi leads lap 1. Underneath the bridge they go. Risu's going to make a move, get the run going into turn 2. Not going to be able to get underneath then. Looks to the other side. Can't make it happen there. Maybe a crossover move going into turn 4. Nothing comes out of it through there. Top 2 still separated by a couple tenths of a second. First side-by-side battle you'll see is between 64 Illumi and last week's winner of Iron Mouse. This is for 4th. And Iron Mouse will take back that spot. Maybe have a battle for the race lead going into the final turn. Here comes Risu back underneath. But they will not be able to get the run through the corner. Now Fifi leads lap 2. Again, in 130 laps, this race is going to be a long one. Lap time's just under 54 seconds, just right around the 53.5s. At least 53.5s for the leader. Risu last time by hit a 53.515. A little slower than the race, a little slower. And the gap builds just a tiny bit there, going into the sweeper turns, as I call them. Right near the pit entry. Risu again, maybe making a move down into the final turn. Side by side. And maybe a good runoff. Fifi's still going to lead. But they're going to stay side by side down underneath the bridge. I guess on the bridge, not underneath the bridge, on the bridge. Still side by side going into contact between the top two. A little bit of Doran going on back here. Or up here, I guess. Still side by side. Reese is going to get the advantage here. Slots in. Clears up. Just for now. If he get the run. A little bit. Oh, there they go. Now Risu clears. It takes the race lead away. And Weebu now just onto the, I think left side of Fifi. Gonna have the advantage going into the final turn. And try and take a spot away from them. And does just that. Fifi falls to third on lap 4 here. And Iron Mouse still side by side with them. Nope. Fifi actually got a good run on the bridge. Actually gonna take second back momentarily. Oh, more contact again. This time with Weebu. Still tightly side by side. As Risu built a slight advantage over whoever is going to take second, which for the moment is the 11. Still side by side. They've been side by side for a full lap now. And Fifi holds on to second. Dropped back a couple spots last lap. Back up to second this time. Battle for third. Iron Mouse with a dive bomb underneath. The 11 of Weebu. Kason up into the picture here. They're going to stay side by side for third. The gap between first and second is going to build just slightly. A little more than a second on the board now. Between the 2 and the 53. Weebu hangs on to third. Iron Mouse fourth. And Kason, who's looking to make a decent comeback after last week's race at Bristol, DNFing from a wreck. That happened late in the run. That ultimately let them finishing down into the deep 30s. In fact, last place. Finishes like that early in the season, that would probably not be too much of a big deal, but finishes like that late in the season, that'll put you right out of title contention, especially as we enter the second half of this series. Risu continues to lead. The gap, ooh, a little contact, just a couple cars behind. They stack up a little bit there. I was going to say the gap's managing quite well between this two car. 3 wide for third. Kason, Iron Mouse, and Weebu. Contact between the 11 and the 22. Kason's going to fall back here as Iron Mouse trying to send it. Gonna get the advantage here. A little bit of contact of between 32 and the 11. That's gonna bring Lumi into the picture, maybe into an opportunity to get into the top 5. You know, that final hairpin turn, I'll get back to what I was talking about here momentarily. But that final hairpin turn is gonna bring a lot of problems for these drivers. Especially for those that are trying to outbrake the car in front of them. Anybody that knows anything about road course racing, that's what you gotta do. You gotta outbrake your competitors, which will ultimately return. You might end up having a little bit of a stack up, which we see in the very back of the field there. Gap's still about a second between first and second, so nothing happening up front at the moment. As I was saying earlier, you have a good finish. You have a good finish this late into a run, and you got yourself an opportunity to run for the championship. And we say that the points leader is nowhere near inside the top 10. In fact, the 24 is still mired back deep in the field. As I try to find them, 26th currently. And Bell is sitting right now in 7th place at the moment. So at this current point in time, Bell can have an opportunity to make another run for the championship if things were to continue the way that they are right now. We said that though last week about those two. And here we see the 24 trying to dice their way through the field. We saw this happen at Bristol, and it ended up paying dividends for the 24. See some contact here between the 73 and the 9. A little bit of Dorn going on in front. Well, anyways, we saw this last week. The 24 was struggling early to like halfway through the run. And then just at the end of the race, would inch their way inside the top 10 and get a good finish. Or a marginally good finish compared to where they were just in the first half of the race. So we're only 9 laps in. I'm not going to really say so much right now for the 24. She's done this a lot this season when it comes to being in the back of the field to start. And then as soon as we get done with every sort of pit stops and get a couple cautions here and there, this 24 is back up front before you know it. See several drivers back there that started at the back. They're still struggling. This is back behind 25th. They're still struggling. Kelso, who led a couple laps at Bristol, he's back in the 20s, struggling. And then back up front here, Iron Mouse up to second, and they're chasing this 2 car. We got a few drivers with 2 wins on this season, but no more than 2. Iron Mouse right now going for the race lead and takes it, diving it into the final hairpin turn. And we're going to be 3 wide behind the race. Oh, they were for a second. When Iron Mouse takes the lead, get a bonus point there. And if Iron Mouse wins this race, which is possible, but also at the same time 11 laps in, too early to tell. The 22 wins, they'll be the first driver to win 3 races this season. Will it be a race to the 3-win mark of the season? I believe somebody's going to get that. We got a lot of drivers that have won this season already, but a ton of drivers that are still searching for that first win. However, as we have seen in the top 10 in points, more so the top 6 have been the most dominant when it comes to the finish of the race. Risu dive bombing it in, but Fifi dive bombed it even deeper. They were going to be side by side for second, but Kayson's making a move. And so is Risu underneath, or to the left side of Iron Mouse as they're on the bridge. Contact between Kayson and Fifi behind. They're dooring. Can't say that ain't tight. I've seen some tight racing so far this race. Kayson up to third, looking for second. A little white line that indicates the apron on that first hairpin turn. It is not out of bounds. They can use it. In fact, that is kind of the meta to this racetrack. If you do end up racing this course on the EA games, you use that. You can use that to your advantage. Kayson up to second now. Dive bombs it into the final turn. Tries to get the run off of that turn. Maybe. Oh, Weebu hard in the wall. Caution is not out. You can see the flagman in this shot here, but Weebu, the pole sitter, in trouble early in this race. We get a quick look here back in the 5th spot. It's Fifi, Weebu, and Lumi 3 wide. Lumi drifts up a little too much into the 11 and boom! Shot right into the guardrail. Not completely sideways, but enough to lose about 20 spots. As we see, you can kind of see it. There's Bimble, Callie, and Starlight back in 24th on back. And that's where Weebu's going to fall with significant left side damage, rather. You see the 24, the points leader, still struggling. But nobody's going to be struggling more than this pole sitter right now. Maybe with some heavy left side damage. Well, they're going to gain a few spots out of it all. They're going to recover slightly. They ain't going into the pits. As we see a battle for the race lead. 3 wide for the race lead. Kayson, Risu, and Iron Mouse. So far, it's Iron Mouse who gets the advantage out of it. And Weebu's going to fall back outside the top 10, but they're still going to recover decently well. Just back inside the top 20 after what almost was disaster for that 11 team. But right now, it's damage control for that 11 team. Battle for second. Kayson takes it away. The top 3 all have 2s in their numbers. The 22, the 32, and the 2. They're going to stay side by side right into the pit entrance. Remember, like I said, green flag pit stops, they're going to, if they happen in this race, we're going to be seeing a huge shuffle in the field. Drivers that are going to pit early on, maybe at a severe disadvantage. Well, maybe not. I say that. And if you pit and get those fresh tires, I mean, we're looking at lap times here. I mean, as the race has gone on, 51 seconds, 52 seconds. We're already 15 laps in, and the pace has dwindled down a second a lap. We're back into what we started when these guys were starting to find how these cars drove. As you see in the best lap, 51.9s for Risu and another 51.9 there for Iron Mouse. So just inside the 51 second. But now we're dwindling down back into the 53s, the late 53 second times. And if that's going to continue on, then anybody who gets into the pits with fresh tires and they come out, they're going to be able to slice down their intervals by about 2 seconds, maybe less a lap, but still a slice nonetheless. Especially when everybody's still bunched up by the top three, bunched up by about 2.5, 3 seconds. If you're deep in the field, you want to see that gap dwindle down very tightly. That might be the strategy to go. Be an early pit, be one of those early pit stoppers. You go ahead and maybe gain a lot of track position. So at this moment, 16 laps in out of 130. I would expect these drivers to not... I expect the top 10 to shuffle around here a little bit as soon as we get green flag pit stops. Assuming that's what we get. If we also get pit stops from under caution, then it wouldn't shuffle as badly. Second place still up for grabs right now. Just a little bit behind Iron Mouse. It's being fought for by both Risu and Kason. They've been trading second place for the last couple laps now. Fifi right on toe, right behind. The top three are right on top of each other. Literally on top of each other. Fifi not too far behind in fourth, I should say. And as this race gets more and more in the books, we'll start seeing the real players come to be. How quick with how long, I should say, these races are, kind of one of the reasons why I don't really take too much of notes in qualifying compared to anywhere else. Because there's not really a reason to talk much about qualifying, even on a road course. Battle for the race lead. Risu gets a slight run off the corner, but is not going to be able to make that pass happen. Iron Mouse still continues to lead. Kason looking to go 3 wide for the race lead. Risu tried to block. Big contact by the 2 and the 22. They save it. But that was huge for a second. That was the hardest I've seen drivers hit each other. Kason in the middle of a 3 wide sandwich, excuse me, and there goes Risu back to the race lead. Oh, maybe not. Hang on. Good run off the corner there by Iron Mouse. They're going to stay side by side through this final... Never mind. Iron Mouse holds on to it, and now it's side by side for second. And Kason again. Here comes Fifi. Bump. Big bump there. The drivers trying to outmaneuver each other or out dive bomb each other, and it's causing a little bit of chaos, as we see. Kason back side by side for the race lead. Ooh, slides up a little bit. Not enough to hit. Can't tell me these drivers aren't aggressive. They are surely that today. With how late in the season it is. Iron Mouse, one of the drivers contending for the championship, they would love nothing more to not only lead a lap, but also lead the most amount of laps and get a win here today. To notch that points deficit, which is around 35 to 36 points, notch that back down into a more manageable gap. Side by side, dive bomb by the 32. Risu, oh, touches the 32. Little contact there. 3 wide. Again for the race lead. Oof, that was a little scary. You can make 3 wide work at this track, but on those hairpin turns, like right around here where the start-finish line is, it gets more and more sketchy because there's only about 2 good lanes. Oh! Contact. More contact. That was a little... Ooh, more contact. They're still hitting each other. Yeah, I'll tell you what, if this continues, the pit stops are going to be longer than 14, 15 seconds because these drivers are going to be trying to maybe repair some of this damage. The more they hit, the more damage they're going to have to repair later in the pit stops. And that'll even cost them, again, more seconds than on the track. I mean, you don't see any damage, but let me tell you, you hit and you get a little bit of that banging going on. It's gonna hurt, and it's gonna cost you some sort of track position. Some way, somehow. Out of all that, though, Iron Mouse continues to lead. Oh, oof, deep in the field where the... Oh, my goodness. All right, we gotta go back. Let's go back here. Saw Simu a little sideways. That's what I saw, and Starlight was getting a little too touchy-wutchy with the 85 and Nana. So about saw two similar incidences with both Simu and Nana. And Weebu did end up pitting. And they are trying to regain... Yeah, they did pit a couple laps ago. That's why they're back in 37th. Don't see any damage there, so... Whatever damage they got from what happened early on in the race, they went from being the pole sitter to being back in last place. Second week in a row that has happened, by the way. Risu leads that lap, so another lead change here. Although the 22 of Iron Mouse still holding on tough as well. Here comes Kason 3 wide for the race lead. This is going to get very squishy here in turn 1. A little bit of contact, but not too much. They could rub. And these stock cars, they could rub. Kason looking to go through the middle. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That was an interesting line. That shoved the two Arisu up the track. These three are driving the wheels off this thing. The top three are still on top of each other. The lead cannot be... Oh, whoa. Hold that thought. What a bump by the two Arisu, and they get the lead out of it too. They still lead that lap. It is still tight. 3 wide under the bridge, on the bridge rather. Risu's gonna clear going into 1. Oh, Iron Mouse with a dive bomb and a half. Trying to survive and try to take back the lead. It's been some amazing action, especially for a road course. Because this is technically a road course, all things considered. Only 23 laps into this run. It is just as intense as the first 23. They have not toned down the aggression at all. Anybody got to make a big move here going into 3? There's Fifi in the background underneath Kason. That's for 3rd. So Fifi up to 3rd. Got about the top 22, top 23, all basically on top of each other. The top 3 still stay the same between Iron Mouse, Risu, and Kason. They're still all there. Fifi going a little wide in turn 2 there. That's a little bit calmer now. It's still tight between second place here. And Iron Mouse has built about half a second to a second gap between second and third place. All this, by the way, is really helping out the 11 car of Weebu as they pitted. 55.2 for the 2, 54.9 for the race leader. Weebu about 52. Yeah, because of the pit stops. Because of pit stops, they're all by themselves. They're all by themselves. Weebu's all by themselves and just driving the wheels off the thing, trying to get back up front. 3 wide for 13th place back here. It's Iron Mouse still hanging on for the race lead at the moment. And if things continue this way, then Iron Mouse is definitely going to cut into that points deficit by a lot here. bit of a gap here between the top 3 and 4th place. The biggest I've seen in a while. Whoa! But they're still on top of each other. Still making it 3 wide on that final hairpin turn. And Iron Mouse is going to prevail on that. Clear off. They're still going to stay side by side behind. Risu trying to make a very bodacious move there. That's similar to my move on the VTRX series. Charlotte not too long ago. Shout out to that. However, Kayson's going to take back that 2nd spot away and try to chase down the race leader of Iron Mouse. We got pit stops here coming up shortly soon. They got about 40 to 45 laps on this tank of fuel that they could run. They might come in a little earlier than that because of tires. I could be wrong on that tank of gas, though. I mean, with how slow these lap times are, it may be more than just 45 laps because of how much off-throttle time there is. Single file through most of the field here. A little bit of when the stacked ups start to calm down, that's when everything else starts to calm down. I'm going to go back to what I was talking about earlier in the race with qualifying. The reason why I don't pay too much attention to qualifying is simple. It's simple. I mean, got a couple drivers. Well, we got one. That's Streamer in the pits. A lot of these drivers that are back here, they started back here, and that is to be, especially during a road course event. But we've seen it multiple times, and especially on super speedways like Daytona and Talladega, and even California. You start up front, that doesn't mean you're going to be up front in a couple laps' time. And especially with how long these races are, just hovering over the 2-hour mark, in some cases more than 2.5 hours. There could be so much that could change between the beginning and the end that it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. But so far, the top 3, they've all started inside the top 10. But then again, as we have entered into the pit stops here, as many drivers are going in, and again, I am not too surprised. I saw Lumi and I saw Dreamer. I might be able to get a glimpse here. Yeah, several more in this time by. Especially, I can't tell because that is a pixel right there, but there's several drivers that are going in. A lot of drivers are thinking about only going about 30 laps on these tires. Maybe a little less than that. There's Kobo, Dreamer, Bimble, Lumi. So far, the only drivers that are on track after pitting. Let's see where the 11 is. 11 still dicing through the field. Yeah, that's what it's like when you have both fresh tires and a lot of track. So you don't have to use up those tires too. You use up the tires when you are driving through the field and trying to either defend or be aggressive. Which is why we're seeing lap times down into the 55 seconds compared to the 51s or the 52s that we were seeing not too long ago. But yeah, lap times have dwindled down very significantly. And because of the high banking and because of the sharp turns, the 2 hairpins that we got, and the sweepers that we got, the left and rights, that'll take a toll on some tires here. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of drivers go in with only about, 30 laps into this run. I don't think anybody's in the pits now. Very different here for pitting than in Bristol. We ran about 100 laps green. And then everybody decided to come in. Literally everybody. Nobody wanted to stay out. Whereas in this race, we're 30 laps into the run. And we've had a couple takers. About a handful every lap. See if anybody goes back in this time. We're just outside the top 20 now, and we're seeing nobody going in this time. Doesn't look like anybody, really. Doesn't look like anybody for the most part's going in. The top 3 are still battling each other very tightly. A lot of the front runners that we saw early in the race go into the pits. That puts Soleil up to 4th and Lucky, the last car in the top 5. Then you got Bell in 6th, clocked in at 6th place. They are having a nice run right now. The 24 of Area is going to be sitting right now in 16th place. So at the moment, Bell would get back the points that they lost back at the Bristol race last week. I mean, well, not really lost, but they would gain a lot of points regardless, about 10 to be exact at the moment. When we talk much about points, remember, winning in this series is definitely a big advantage here. You get about 4 bonus points. You can get more than that, obviously. You get 3 for winning the race compared to 2nd place. That's already a big a big help right there if you are in a situation where you need wins. Get 3 bonus points compared to the 2nd place car. Plus, you get that bonus point for leading a lap, so you get 4 points there. And then if you somehow actually end up leading the most amount of laps in the race, being the dominant driver, which we have seen this in this series already back at Martinsville not too long ago, you could get another bonus point for that as well. So you could theoretically get about 5 bonus points for winning this race. More likely, though, 4. Got a couple takers this time by in the top 3. Saw Kason, Risu. I think Solei's in the pits as well. Several drivers from the top 5. No, Kason's actually staying out. That was Risu that was in the pits, I should say. And Weebu's climbed back up inside the top 10. Can't really see what's going on in the pits, but you can definitely tell that there's stuff going on in the pits. It is probably one of the only... Well, I think one of the only... Actually, no. Fuji was underground. This one has something above it, too. You see there. But yeah, not the last time we're probably going to go into a track where the pit road's underneath something. Weebu's back inside the top 5 now. Well, their lap times have dwindled down just similar to everybody else's here as top 2 come in. So does Lucky. The only one that's staying out right now is going to be the 11 of Weebu, who pitted little early. Yeah, everybody else is coming back in. Yeah, the leaders came in, so everybody else is coming in. Except Lumi, but Lumi already pitted. We saw that earlier. So now it's the 11 car Weebu back out front. Although they won't be at much of a advantage here. This will probably be the biggest deficit between first and second. That'll stay probably consistent for the most part of this race. It is a 17-point deficit. Or a 17-second, not point, 17-second gap between first and second place. But Weebu pitted very early in this run. They're about 10, maybe 11 laps, ironically 11 or ish laps off sequence with everybody else. If they could get a caution, that will definitely help them out. Lapping a couple cars and being able to... I mean, yeah, look at this. There's Weebu right now, just... Oof, squeezing out between several other cars that are blending out. And everybody from D on back in the 87 who's trying to get their lap back, making my point stand clear. These drivers are not battling for a position. They're battling to get the lap back. Although around each other, like the 17 of Fu and the 10 of William, they are battling for position. The 11 car is at this point holding them up. And right now, Weebu struggling right now. They're the only car that's in the 40 seconds for their best laps that we see, but I think that might be a scoring problem. There might have been a section or a sector of this track that hadn't been formally calculated. So at this point, they're one of the only drivers that we can't really calculate their best time compared to where they're at right now. But if we could safely say that their best time was around like a 52, about a 51, maybe a 51.8, maybe a 51.9 when they were by themselves. It's still about a 3-ish, 2.5 second drop off. And as we see the gap between top two, it is dwindling down. It was 17, now it's down to 14 and a half. Interestingly enough, as we look at behind the top six, because the top six pitted earlier than everybody else, if we go back to 7th place, which is Risu, they came out ahead of Iron Mouse, but more importantly, I guess, Soleil comes out ahead of Iron Mouse after pit stop, so a really good stop by Soleil. They came in around the same time. But yeah, the line of cars between Lumi, Fifi, Bimble, Dreamer, Kobo, and then of course Weeboo, they all pitted separately. Got about several different pit strategies here going on. Yeah, Weeboo is struggling right now. They just let by Bao, who was the last car on track in 37th. So now nobody's a lap down. And that's just how different fresh tires and old tires could be at this track. Especially at a road course, when a car is ill handling, it is the worst. The gap is dwindled down to 12.5 seconds now. Maybe it'll be less than 10 as Lumi just crosses the line right now. About 10.5 between first and second. Then another 0.2 between second and third. I think at this point, Weeboo is just desperately hoping that there's some sort of a caution that's going to come out and save them, because they will be able to come in as well as everybody else around that same time, so they can stay on the same tire strategy. Because you get off sequence, it's going to hurt you more than help you. You can get a caution early in the, or I should say early in that run. You'll be able to, save the tires and be able to make something happen late in the run. When you're doing something like what Weeboo's doing, it's gonna really be costly here, especially when you're losing about two seconds a lap, maybe a second at most. What is helping out Weeboo though is everybody behind them battling, because then they will be using up their tires, trying to be more aggressive and defensive. If everybody from Lumi on back starts using up their tires, the real gap will then be to 7th, which is about 20 seconds back. "39 laps into this run here. And while Weeboo is trying to hang on to this lead, it is not going to be long before the gap behind them, when it comes to fresh tires, they're going to be back up here. Oh! Bimble is spun around. Maybe contact between them and Kobo? Yeah. Trying to make the move underneath Dreamer. And Kobo just spins them around. Not a caution, similar to what we saw with Weeboo, that was all the way down here, the bottom half of the hairpin / front stretch, away from the racing line. At the same time, too, it was just a simple spin. But yeah, there goes the 9. He was spun around. Our points leader has climbed inside the top 20. They're running some pretty fast lap times compared to everybody else. They're running some pretty fast lap times around here. And Weeboo's still hanging on to the race lead, 40 laps into this run, but it's just under 8 seconds now, or it was more than that, but I doubt it's going to be 8.5 now. Despite these two between Fifi and Lumi being side by side, now it's 7.5 seconds. Yeah, about a second, maybe a second and a half a lap being lost. But again, with these two battling, it's helping Weeboo slightly. Not a lot, but enough to kind of hold on. Soleil fell back to 9th, and now it's... Oh, actually... Yeah. And now it's Lucky that goes up to 8th. as Bimble is now going to be in a struggling situation now. After getting spun out. And they're also on older tires, too. So Lucky's probably going to take that spot away before you know it. Gap's now 6 1/4 right now. At this rate, what I'm assuming is that Weeboo's probably going to go back into the pits here within the next 5 to 10-ish laps. And then they're going to try this exact same strategy again. They might be trying to play that long run game when they're trying to be out front while they still have the while they still can, and in hopes that they can get a caution. Or if a caution comes out while they're in the pits and it's not too late into their run, they can stay out and come back out front on the restart. We have rarely seen a race that has not had a caution, the last of which was at not our last time we went to a road course, but rather the second time we went to a road course, which was at Charlotte. That race went caution-free. However, in this race, I feel like it's going to be different because we've seen 2 incidents already, one involving our race leader. And while it didn't cause a caution, there was more action in those 2 incidents than in the Charlotte race combined. But until that 11 car comes into the pits, this 53 is going to be hard charging. I mean, we see the 11 car just now entering the bridge, and Fifi's not too far behind. After pit stops, everybody has started spreading out just a little bit more, which is normal for a road course event, which is definitely not what the 11 wants to see. The 11 car wants to see somebody getting spun out in front of the pack and bring out a yellow. If they don't get it this lap or the next lap, they're going to start dropping. They're going to go all the way back to just maybe outside the top 10 before they come into the pits. Or at least that would be a good strategy. You want to stay out as long as you can because we saw it earlier. Weeby was just like demolishing the field all by herself with those old tires. But now they're on the opposite side of that spectrum. And with under a second of a gap here, things are looking dire for this 11 team. Comes to hanging on to that race, to hanging on to the race lead. The only other thing so far is that this 11 car has led the most amount of laps. Because before that first cycle of pit stops, it was between the 2, the 22, and the 32. They were all splitting the laps together. Maybe not so evenly, but Iron Mouse led the most amount of laps until Weeboo, and now Weeboo's led a ton of laps in this run. About 14 to 15 laps in a row that we've seen this 11 car in the lead. And it won't be long before we'll see one of these 3 get back into the picture. As they're trying to decide who is it going to be. It's going to be Lumi for the moment. You don't have to look too far because here comes Risu and Lucky. They're on the tail end of this small little gap here, as they have just made it a 0.5 of a second gap between them and the race leader. Now they're 3 wide for what will be the race lead once Weeboo gets past. And it might be Dreamer who actually takes the race lead away. We saw Dreamer lead a couple laps at Bristol last week. And he's one of the drivers that I should mention, they have not led a lot of laps this season at all this year. And don't look now, here comes the 2 Arisu. It may not be one of these 4 or 5. Oh, big contact there. Probably going to be Risu. Here they come. Again, Risu pitted a little bit after these others. So they also are quick. Race lead about to change hands here between the 64 and the 11. We've trying to defensively hold off the 64, but it is no use. And second place is about to change hands here to the 2 car. And we saw Risu battling with both Iron Mouse and Kason earlier. But with both of them out of the picture, the only other one that's on the same strategy as the 2 is the 6. And I think Weebu has just surrendered the race, basically the race lead and everything else. I think they just came into the pits. I'll check here in a second, but Kobo just sent it 3 wide. That's opening the door for Lucky in the 6. Yeah, Weebu just came into the pits, so they are going to be the tail end of this pack here. If they can get out quickly before they come back across the start-finish line, she'll stay on the lead lap. And Risu takes the race lead back, and Lucky flies to second. Lucky is the Darlington winner not too long ago, trying to make it 2 wins of the season. We had that last week with Iron Mouse, getting 2 wins on the season. Lucky's trying to become another one to notch more than 1 victory in this. And these 2 are on the same strategy, so Risu's going to have to fight hard to keep this race lead, but Lucky's going to clear going into that hairpin turn. See where that 11 car is. Yeah, the 11 car is way out ahead of these 2, so going a lap down is not a problem for that 11 car at the moment. They still need a caution as quickly as they can, though. Oof, tight between the top 2 right now. We're about to hit another cycle of green flag pit stops within the next, I would say, 15 laps. Maybe a little less than that, give or take. I say that, though, but the lap times between these cars, the top 2, they haven't fallen off as much as the first run. Obviously, because they aren't battling as hard. They weren't battling as long. Still 54 threes for Risu and the others that pitted when the top 3 pitted, at least. Obviously, if you pitted earlier, such as Lumi and Kobo, you're just in the 55, just outside maybe the 55-second region. They're still staying side by side for a full lap. These 2 are side by side, which is not really going to help out their tires in the long run here. Like I said, with these 2 being on the same strategy, and they haven't really been battling each other as hard until now, they're trying to maybe make it to where they don't go in at the same time. Rather try to stay out longer, because you stay out longer, you can have that long run. You can be up in for the long run. The complete opposite of Weebu, essentially. If green flag pit stops happen here within the next 10 laps, you'll see the 11 car back inside the top 5, maybe even the race lead. As Weebu's hit about 52 second lap times. Dreamer just came into the pits too, so he's out back at 37th, but on fresh tires. So Bao's hitting 54 seconds. Around that same region throughout the rest of the field. Bimble again, all the way down here. Did something happen to him again? Looks like it. Oh, yeah. This time it's, more contact. They kept it straight, though. They just get into it with Fruit. And, similar to, oh my god, super similar to Weebu's incident. They're going to lose more than just a little bit of track position there. I want to see what Weebu's lap time is right here. Last time was a 52.0. And Bao is set a 37, or 33.7, I should say. So did Henya. Yeah, about the same lap time there. And Dreamer just a little quicker. Just a little bit quicker. About 1/10.5 to 2/10 quicker per lap. Yeah, Weebu is about a couple seconds ahead of, a couple seconds, I should say, faster. About 1.5 seconds faster. Well, that'll go a long way. That will go a long way as this run continues. Though, like I said, it really is just majorly dependent on the fact that a lot of these drivers are running this run without battling each other super hard. Most of this race is being contested single file with a little bit of side-by-side racing near the front of each pack. It's the battle for 10th, I believe. Yes, the battle for 10th between David and Kyoso. And you got Bell and Nana in the mix as well as Fruit. Soleil just trying to climb inside the top 5. Iron Mouse is back to 3rd. Watson with severe damage on the front end here. What happened to the 4 of Watson? That may be a caution. This happened a long time ago. Oh, wow. Yeah, this happened a long time ago. Yeah, oh my god. What happened here? Fifi is slow. Checks up in front of the 60 of Merriweather. And then Noriboshi hits him. And then, oh my goodness. The 60 of Merriweather. The 4 car of Watson. Major damage to the 4 car. As they just nail the guardrail. And Bimble comes into the pits. I don't know what... Oh, Fifi in the pits. I don't know what happened to the 53 car. Something happened. We've seen it before when it comes to the engine malfunctions with Lumen last week. I think something happened to the 50... I want to go back. Something had to have happened with Fifi. Now, she was just slow. So she clocked in at 12th place last time by. The last time she crossed the line. But she falls all the way back to the 20s. And then this ended up happening because of the big old stack up. Merriweather has some severe rear end damage. The driver 6th place in points right now, who I talked about, was the long shot. And their race has gone up in smoke. And I do believe the caution is going to come out, if not has come out. And right now it's the 6 and the 2 battling for the race lead back to the line, I believe. At least that's what I'm going to assume, because that 4 car was stuck in that guardrail. See the battle scars there. Still light says green. Dive bomb here for Risu. Yeah, the caution is not out. Fifi comes back on track. And we stay green. And top 2 have separated themselves by more than 3 seconds behind Iron Mouse, and they still hit each other. He's just going to lose a couple tenths of a second there. And here comes Risu once again, going to dive bombing in. Lucky's going to try and get a little defensive here. And Risu leads that lap, but not by much. Watson's not out of the race. But she's going to come back on track several, maybe 3 laps down at most. I want to say at least 1. They're coming back on track. Caution flag's out. I don't know if that's for I don't know if that's for the incident or not. Looks like it. Unless something happened somewhere on the track. Doesn't look like it. No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like they called the caution for I want to say all the debris that was on track. Which makes a whole lot of sense here in the grand scheme of things. A very late caution call by the game here, which is a little concerning, but in any case, this is just as soon as the 64 Illumi came into the pits. And maybe some other drivers too came in. Nope, it was just Lumi, who still has to come out ahead of the race leaders if they want to get back out front. So this will play really good into the 64's favor. Maybe. Final time here under green. For now, it's going to be Risu who's going to lead them back to the line. The caution is out for the first time today, or at least safety car at least first time today. And what I can assume to be a caution because of all of the stuff that was on track because of the Watson incident. I think initially they didn't want to call it because it was off track, but I assume that they were forced to call it because of all the stuff that came from. I mean, like, you saw the damage. It was definitely not a it was definitely not just a simple spin and deal for the 4 car. They're currently sitting 2 laps down, but the first car 1 lap down is the 9 of Bimble, who came into the pits after getting spun. In fact, there he goes for the get back on the lead lap. Everybody's coming into the pits. So this will be interesting to see who comes out of this as the race leader. Everybody comes into the pits here. Some side damage there by the 2, if we see that. Again, hard to tell what's going on here, but this will be our best angle here to see when it comes to who's going to end up where. So we'll get a good glimpse here of who's going to come out and what. We're having several drivers going to stay out here because they just pitted when the caution came out, but we'll go with that here in just a second. Off pit lane here. Looks like the 2 and the 6 are going to come out 1-2. Iron Mouse going to come out just behind. David actually gained a couple spots there. He'll be inside the top 10. There's the rest of the race off pit lane here. To get themselves situated. Bring it back. We have a handful of drivers staying out here, as we're just about ready to get back going here. This will be the only time while I will ever pause it to go through the field here as they get bunched up here. A very quick caution. So 4 drivers are going to stay out here. And it's going to be Weeboo, Dreamer, Lumi, and Fifi. And then you'll have Risu in 5th, Lucky in 6th, Iron Mouse in 7th, David in 8th, Tyroki in 9th, Kobo in 10th, Soleil in 11th, and there's the rest of the field on back as they are not super sorted out here. Because of the fact that the line is just a little too far. They weren't sorted by the time they crossed the line. The timing and all that's not going to be the greatest. But everybody will be sorted. Everybody will be situated as we get green here. As you see, the drivers that just pitted, they'll be lined up and ready to go here. As Weeboo once again, takes the green flag. Try to get a jump here on the 89 at Dreamer. They try to stack them up behind. Try to get a good run because you got to remember that 11 car is not on the same cycle as everybody else behind. The only car 1 lap down now is the 4 car of Watson. who might end up getting something here soon if they continue being the way that they are right now. So the top 4, they stayed out under that last caution. Because Lumi just got into the pits as soon as the caution came out. So they are just right on the same cycle as everybody behind. That caution really hurt both Risu and Lucky. Maybe not so much Iron Mouse, because Iron Mouse was several seconds back. Although losing a couple spots because of that caution, but everybody loses spots on that caution. Is a stacked up behind the top 4 right now. You'll see the official running order on the top left as they restart. And Weebu's hanging on for the race lead at the moment, although being challenged by everybody else behind. Dreamer came in, I believe, 1 or 2 laps after Weebu, so Dreamer is technically on the same cycle. 1 lap or 2 laps on tires is not going to mean the difference here, or not as much as we've seen with 5 to 10 laps on these tires. Caution's out again. See what happened this time. A very quick green flag run here. This seemed to have happened. There's Watson. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Simu, Gura, and Williams stacked. Oh, wow. They were 4 wide. Sprite is all the way up the track here. This first of 2 hairpin turns. And they just get stacked up, and then bam, they just pile up. Simu hard into the guardrail. Rear end all smashed up. Sprite came away with minimal damage at least, but Simu, I think, got the worst of it here. As he gets hit by William, and bam, rear end right into the guardrail. Right around the same area that we saw the Watson crash happen in. But this time, that one was called almost instantly. And now the 99 of Simu has problems going into the second half of, or going near into the second half of this race. That's our second caution of the day. It comes at lap 56. Okay, so it looks like Weebu and Dreamer, the top 2, they're going to come into the pits here and sacrifice all that track position. Might be a slightly questionable move here between these between the top 2. They were hanging on just fine from the start of that run. I don't know if it's a good call to come in now. But in any case, both Weebu and Dreamer will restart tail end here, or roughly tail end. There's a couple other drivers too that came in, but most of them are coming in because of the wreck. Can only assume the 4 car will be waved around here when we cross the line. So they still stack up here on lap 60. It'll be another quick yellow here. The pace car has his lights off, so they'll go into the pits here momentarily. I'll only go through the top 5 and show the rest on the screen right now, but we got Lumi, Fifi, Risu, Iron Mouse, and David, the top 5. Tyroki and Lucky just behind, not too far behind, and then there's Soleil back in 8th. Kobo in 9th, and Kason rounds out the top 10, and the rest of the field on back. As Watson's going to try and get that lap back very late, but we saw that last week at Bristol. That was a bit close, but hey, no harm, no foul. Watson has the lap back. They'll be tail end, tail end on the lead lap. 60 laps complete. Green flag's back in the air. Let me again try to get that jump, or try to do a stack up, then try to jump the start. It worked on 3rd place. It didn't work on 2nd. Still tight between the top 2. And Risu and Iron Mouse are battling each other behind. Not too far is David. He's climbed up into the top 5 for the first time today. Now we saw Lumi last week get involved in several incidents. They didn't end up having a good finish because of it. Leading a lap here today is going to definitely help them out tremendously on the points. Here comes Fifi down into the picture. They'll take the race lead away. Lumi's also going to lose second because here comes Risu and Iron Mouse just underneath. And Risu's going to try and take the race lead away. So far, ooh, little contact there. So far, the 2 and the 22 have been the dominant drivers in the first half of this race, but they've really not been able to get back up front because of the drivers that are trying to out pit strat them. As we see Lumi drift way up the racetrack and lose 4th, and is now maybe going to lose 5th to David. Got to keep in mind, too, that there's several drivers that pitted on... There's a few that pitted that last caution. But just as that first caution came out, Lumi was also in the pits, too. So they're close to, if not on the same strategy as the rest of the field. However, they're a couple laps behind. Oh, Fifi gets turned going into the first turn. As Iron Mouse got right into the quarter panel of them. As Fifi was trying to make a move for the race lead. And then there was contact there. Well, that was surprisingly the first time that corner was Calamity Corner. Well, that moves Iron Mouse up to 2nd. And David up to 3rd. Again, that's the first time I've seen that all race long. Here comes Iron Mouse once again back to the race lead. Trying to not only go 2 in a row, but also make it 3 wins on the season so far. Oh, Sprite gets turned around in the background. No caution for that. I don't know who got into the 90. But it was just a simple spin that we've seen twice already today. David moves up to 2nd. At least for now. Not clear. Now clear off the 22. I'm not trying to chase back that race leader. Try to lead for the first time today. Now both Dreamer and Weebu pitted under that last caution. They're back inside the top 30, maybe inside the top 25 after all is said and done. As David has led a lap in today's race, and he'll get that bonus point for leading a lap. But Risu still stays side by side. Actually clears as they were on the bridge. So it wasn't long of a run there for the race lead for David. 3rd place being up for grabs right now. It's Iron Mouse, Lumi, and Lucky, as well as Kobo. Those 4 are battling all for just one single spot. Now Iron Mouse gets a good run off that first hairpin turn, and now David's in trouble of losing that spot. So far, looking like a good run through the sweepers, as I call them. Iron Mouse is going to try and outbrake the 77. It does. But not for long. You can outbrake them going into a corner, but coming out of a corner, that's where you struggle a lot. Especially because you're also using up more of your tires, so yeah, there's that. Still Dorn going into that turn. That first turn. 2nd place being traded right now between the 22 and the 77. Now Iron Mouse once again clears and takes 2nd away. Now he's going to try and chase down the race leader, although David's hanging on. David's really strong on those quick left and right-handers just near the pit entrance. He's pretty good at that. Let's see if he can dive it into this final hairpin and maybe take the race lead again. He's going to attempt it. Iron Mouse not too far behind to help push the 77. I think he led that lap. I couldn't tell. Yeah, he did. Oh, Henya gets turned around in the back. The green cars are definitely not having a good day today, as I just saw Henya getting spun. And the same could be said with Sprite just a couple laps ago. Whoa, little fishtail there by the 22. Still no caution. No caution. Risu up to back to second. And I thought Iron Mouse was going to be right on that quarter panel there, trying to take that spot away, but clears off. Now let's see what happens here for David going into this final turn. Iron Mouse is going to dive bomb it for second, try to take it away, but Risu's going to get the run off the corner. Oof. Tyroki way down the racetrack. Couldn't tell if he hit the guardrail or not. Oh, Risu tried an aggressive move, but David slammed the door right on them. David has won at Martinsville. I think he's won another track, so I think he has 2 wins this season already. I believe. Freeze time for a second, and I'll quickly fact check that while I'm here. Yes, he does have 2 wins on this season already. So a win here today would put him on the pedestal for the Triple Crown. For winning 3 races. Getting the hat trick, if you will. So the top 3, everybody inside the top 3, or at least 2, I should say, out of the top 3, they're all looking for their 3rd win of the season. Risu is still looking for their 1st. David hangs on to the race lead right now. At this moment, I think Weebu is still going to hold on to the most laps led. The next person to challenge for that would be Iron Mouse, who's still in 3rd place right now, trying to get back 2nd spot and also try to chase down the leader. Lap 69 will be in the books when we cross the line. So we're a little bit past halfway through this race, just a little over. And Risu's going to get a good run going into this final turn. Side by side again for the race lead. David's going to hang on. Oh, there goes Doki Bird up the racetrack. And that's going to be a caution. They pile up behind them. So let's quickly go back to Doki Bird here. They kept it straight after all that, but Callie gets right into their quarter panel, spins them out, and they stacked up behind. And the caution comes out because of that. Now, we saw it not too long ago with both Henya and Sprite getting spun around, but they got spun going around. And they spun it down below, so that's why the caution comes out now. As Doki Bird gets spun out in front of the entire field. Let's see if Risu could get the race lead going into the pace laps here. That'll be huge if that happens. Off the final turn, it's going to be close, but it's going to be, I think it was Risu. No. Yes. It was. By just 1/100th of a second. Just barely ekes out the race lead. And we're going to see pit stops here. The whole field, for the most part, is going to come in. I believe everybody's going to be coming in this time. I don't see anybody staying out. So we'll see what happens here under this caution here, or under this pit stop cycle. As we see it here, waiting for the field to come out for the pit stop cycle here. Want to remind everybody that inside the top 5 in points, 2 drivers have not won a race so far today. That being our points leader of area and Soleil, who sits 37 points back. However, sitting with so far 152 laps led, I'm still waiting for this 24 to come back up front here, as David's going to lose a couple spots here on pit lane, as Risu hangs on for the race lead as we headed to the restart here with just a little over 70 laps in the books, which I believe would be one to go, I think. Yeah. So they'll quickly form up here just behind the safety car. And we'll get back racing here with 72 laps in the books. As we get set for this restart here, another quick reminder too, that only 4 cars in this field have won twice. That being Iron Mouse, Kyoso, David, and who was the other one? William. Green flags in the air here on lap 72. So far, Iron Mouse sitting in 3rd place. They have the best shot of winning 3 races this season, but only 1 spot behind her is the 77 of David, who we were just talking about. Could easily muster up a 3rd win of the season if they continue to run the way that they have today. And as I say that, he goes up the track a little bit, but he's not losing a spot. In fact, he's going to probably gain a spot. That battle between them and Iron Mouse commences. Battle for the race lead. Here comes Lucky once again, trying to take the race lead away. Lucky has 1 win of the season so far. Get a win here today, they'll join those 4 cars that I mentioned earlier as being the 4 to have won twice. Lucky clears up. The battle for 2nd. Now a thing in the picture here between Iron Mouse and Risu. Risu led the most amount of laps at Bristol last week and is trying to do it for twice in a row here at Old Spice, sorry. And at the moment, though, they're going to fall back to 3rd. Lucky's going to hang on to the race lead, but can Iron Mouse get a run here off that banking? A very high banked corner right there. Not as big as what we see down here, but just big enough, I guess. Side by side for the race lead, side by side behind. It's going to be Iron Mouse who crosses the line in front. Actually, no. It says a 10's in the race lead, but the 10's in the pits. And Weebu's all the way back at 37. Several drivers in the pits this time around. Again, just as like it was last week, there's been several times where we saw a different leader than what was being scored on the tower. So we'll turn that off for a second and get that a chance to reload. That happens every once in a while. Not as often on road courses, but it happens. Still a tight battle between these two. I think Lucky got that one still. So Lucky, Iron Mouse, and David so far the top 3. Single file throughout the top 3, but here comes David looking to the left side of Iron Mouse here. Top 3 still on top of each other. Risu falls back a little bit. Here comes another big move here by Iron Mouse to try and get it back. Get that race lead back. A little better off. Maybe that time by. It was close. It was certainly close. Not close enough, but a good run here down the bridge. We'll see the top 2 nearly colliding with each other. Can Iron Mouse hang on, stay side by side through the first of 2 hairpin turns? Hanging on slightly. David not too far behind, helping that 6 car out. Still side by side. I think Lucky's going to clear and does going into the final banked little straightaway here. Comes Iron Mouse into the hairpin here, getting a little bit of pressure by the 77 behind. Still close there between the top 2. Still separated by only 1/100th of a second, not by much. As they still stay side by side, almost a full lap around being side by side. And David's trying to force a move to be made here as he's getting pressure from behind with Risu not too far in the mirror. Lucky's going to clear, but here comes David trying to take it side by side with Iron Mouse. Cannot do so here. Actually will do so here on that little final straightaway. Iron Mouse is going to lose second, maybe even lose a couple more spots as David shunts the 6 up the track to try and forcefully take the race lead away. They're 3 wide behind, many rows deep. But they keep everything going so far. Side by side for the race lead, this time with David and Lucky. And Risu's trying to take third away from Iron Mouse, just behind. David can't make that work right now. Let's get a run underneath for the hairpin turn. Edge is out ahead for the moment, so it's setting him up big right here. That's where he's good. A little sweep on the right and left side, the right and the left turn. Oh, a little contact. Ooh, that was dangerous right there. The high-speed turn right there. You don't want to get spun out there, but David clears off the 6, and here comes a 2 Arisu. And David's going to lead this lap, and Risu's going to take second. And our points leader of Starlight has taken control inside the top 10, slotted in 9th place. The driver who started in 32nd spot today, driver who was not mentioned until now being inside the top 10. The first time today they have been inside the top 10. Like I said, first half of the race doesn't go so well for that 24 machine, but it doesn't matter because the second half is where they shine the most. And right now they're showing it off. 2.37 back from the race leader in 9th place. But only about less than a car length behind David, it's Risu who's going to try and dive bomb for the lead with a bump by the 6 to try and forcefully make something happen. Jacking the rear bumper up, and that's going to make the 2 slow up a little bit as they go on the bridge. They're still going to stay side by side for the lead. But Risu's going to get a run, or maybe David lets out one of the 2. Either way, Risu takes the lead. Single file behind what we got for the second spot right now between David and Lucky. And Lucky's going to clear off from the first of 2 hairpin turns. So they're going to try and close a somewhat decent gap between first and second. They're going to have to try and do that quick. With the draft on this straightaway here, they're going to peak high, and they're going to make it known that they're going to make a move here going into the final turn. See the same thing happening with Iron Mouse and David just behind these 2. Lucky's going to dive it in, clear off, and another lead change for the day. On the bridge they go. Lucky's going to have a nice little car length of advantage there for side-by-side battle. That we'll see is the battle between 2 drivers that have won 2 times this season. Both trying to get up to a 3rd for the win column here. But here comes Lumi trying to squeeze in underneath there of both in the middle, I should say, of David and Iron Mouse. Lucky, dang, excuse me, voice crack. It's that time of the year, I guess. Lucky's got a nice bit of a gap here between whoever's going to manage this second place battle here well, between David, Iron Mouse, and the rest of the field, with Risu on the outside. Risu's going to hang on to that second spot. Oh, David with a huge dive into turn 1. Near contact between them and the 6, but was definite contact between them and the 2. Remember, coming into this race today, David lost the spot. Now, He lost the spot after Bristol after having quite a meltdown of a second half after having a decent first half. He's right now in 8th place, and he's tied with DJ being 56 points back. Right now, he leads another lap today. Oh, here comes Watson coming out of the pits again. They're going to be 3. Nope, they're going to be side by side for second. David saw the 4 come out and immediately just jumped off the gas. The 4 of Watson back in and out on pit road. Just a not so good day by that 4 machine, as they have been struggling all race long. Ever since the first caution. Battle for second right now. David trying to survive. But he's got 2 drivers that have been aggressive all day long, and that's both Risu and Iron Mouse. They are battling hard right behind him. And Watson's going to be a bit of a problem here for these drivers ahead. All right, now Lucky's not trying to make anything happen and get that 4 car in the mix of anything here. 85 laps in the books here. We're getting close to the end of this race. Got about maybe 1 final green flag pit stop here if they can make it to lap 100. If they can make it to lap 100, they can make it the rest of the way for the rest of this race. Now, like I said, fuel is not much of a factor as much as tires. So once they get back into the pits one last time, they'll be good to go. Oh, David is gonna... Oh, little contact there. Good save by the 22. Just gets right into it with David. As you see more contact going on deep in the field. And Iron Mouse is going to lose a ton of spots. Actually, it's going to fall to 5th, but immediately he's going to get challenged for by 6th on back. David again. Saw that last week at Bristol, getting into it with Doki Bird, who was in 2nd at the time. Again, David gets into it with 2nd place while he's trying to get up to that spot. But right now, he's side by side for the race lead. Let's see if he can manage this as well as he has all race long, and he does. Clears to 6, but he's going to have to watch behind because Reese's already, all right, going to dive bomb it. Oh! That was a big little shot there. Oh, here comes Lumi. Oh, Lumi, little contact, but wow. Both Iron Mouse and Risu were both in trouble. Risu's going to fall outside the top 10. Lucky's going to take back the race lead. Iron Mouse back up to 3rd. Risu gets the worst out of those 2 exchanges, nearly getting spun out, as she's going to fall back outside the top 10. Maybe just inside the top 15 if she's lucky. Speaking of lucky, she's hanging on to the race lead. But David has been good on that sweeping right and left turns. Or left and right turn, I guess I should say. And he's been good at that all race long. He's going to hang on to the lead. Iron Mouse is 2nd. Iron Mouse trying to lower a 75-point deficit to our current points leader, who is currently inside the top 5. DJ gets spun around in the back. No caution for that. He got turned right in front of the pack. Similar to what we saw in that stack-up caution. And DJ, who David is tied with for the 8th place in points, he falls back outside the top 30. Tyroki to 3rd. Iron Mouse hanging on to 4th place, though. There's our points leader right now, sitting in 7th place. A good finish here today will increase that points lead well above 30 points. Oh, big bump right there to the 32 of Kason. We saw last week as well, that 24 is out for blood. They have a 20-point lead, but they don't want to lose it at all. Second place in points, sitting at 33rd right now. So again, second place in points, not having a good day whatsoever. Tyroki trying to get into the mix here, trying to become another driver who is going to lead a lap today. Just creeping up behind these two as they still stay side by side here on lap 89. David's going to clear. Battle is for behind with Tyroki. Ironmel, wow. Oh, Ironmel again gets turned and in front of the whole pack too. No caution for that. That's just going to split up the top 5 and more. The two of some of the more dominant drivers today, both Risu and Ironmel, they have been getting victimized on that final hairpin turn. Risu getting turned not too long ago. Ironmel getting turned twice. Ironmel is going to fall outside the top 10, outside the top 20. And right now, the top 3 have a decent gap between them and 4th, who now is the points leader. Out of all that, the points leader has stayed out of all of the BS so far today and is up to 4th, just a little bit behind these top 3 right now. David, Lucky, and Tyroki. 90 laps in the books. We got 40 to go here at this racetrack. What a chaotic restart this has been. Right now, it's seeming to calm down just a little bit. There's a 2-second gap between 3rd and 4th place right now. But it's the points leader that's sitting in 4th place right now. Area started back in 32nd. It's climbed up almost 30 spots. And for gaining 30 spots on a road course, that is quite the accomplishment nonetheless. Because of the incident between Ironmel and Risu and everybody else that was involved in that, has brought up several more drivers from the back of the field up front, including Kyoso and Sole, who were just outside the top 10 not too long ago, as well as Melody, who was in the back of the field through most of this race. In fact, they started way back in the field. There's Risu back in 14th after passing Fruit. Ironmel is back in 22nd after getting spun. So, again, the 2 and the 22 dropped, like the 2 that were really dominant in the first part of this run, heading into the first green flag pit stop. And no doubt, undoubtedly one of the more dominant drivers of this race that were probably going to be up front near the end of the race. Both of them get involved in something similar. Nearly getting spun out completely, if not completely, just behind the start-finish line. They lost out on a ton of track position and points. And what was apparently going to be a good points day by everybody that is second on back in points, it has turned upside down for them, as now the points leader is now up to 4th and is in the mixed with the other 3 for the race lead. Although just about a car length behind, it is quickly managing that gap and dwindling it down in favor of the 24. And with 1, maybe 2, maybe a final pit stop coming up within the next 10 laps, maybe 15 if it stays green. All it's going to take is for that 24 to have the better pit stop out of the other 3, and they're going to be up front battling for the win. The 24 has not won all year long, although they are still the points leader. They have been the most consistent when it comes to the checkered flag and where they are at that point in time. Hanging on by the sliverest of margins right now in terms of the points lead. However, the drivers that are second on back in points, they are not having the best of days right now. Like we talked about with Malcolm being back in the 30s, William just inside the top 20 as they were battling with Iron Mouse not too far back. Noriboshi in the mix of all that as well. The only driver that is a contender for right now in the points, it's right now 8th place in points, David, and Soleil, who is 5th in points, although few spots behind the 24. Top 3 still the same as the last time I looked. Tyroki in the picture here after starting in mid-pack here. Lucky trying to hang on, although he's going to lose second. But David so far hanging on here on lap 95. He is the only driver inside the top 5 that has won, let alone one race. But he's won 2. He's looking to win the 3rd of the season for him. And if he does that, that'll cut down the lead, not by much because of the points leader being in 4th, but still would be a good point staying regardless for the 77. Tyroki, though, back on his rear bumper, trying to take the race lead away. Because of that whole incident between Iron Mouse happening right in front of the field, that split up the field tremendously. I mean, you look at the gaps here between the race leader on down. It's only 5 seconds between 1st and 10th, which normally is not normally the case. Risu is 14th. Iron Mouse 23rd. William is 21st. Noriboshi 24th. Bell is 26th. Overdrive has regained some of those spots after getting spawned, although still sits 29th. So far, the bottom 4 is Weebu, Doki Bird, Bimble, and Watson. 4 drivers that have been involved in probably the most amount of incidents all race long. Weebu off sequence. Doki Bird getting spawned once, maybe twice. Bimble going a lap down earlier in the race because of him pitting after getting spawned, the similar fashion with Weebu. Then he got Watson, who was the cause of the first caution, who got just absolutely demolished. But we should be right now entering that final cycle of green flag, that final pit stop cycle, I should say. And it'll be happening under green. I say that because several drivers, yep, there's one of them. There's Doki Bird. I was going to say, I don't know if Doki Bird pitted, but several drivers are going to try an early pit, or short pit, as the actual term is, to try and actually, you know, try and get some extra track position while they can. But the problem with Doki Bird right now is she came out in the middle of the pack here. And they're going to be trying to make this happen while the leaders are trying to aggressively stay with it. There goes David, by the way. So David enters the pits. They'll surrender the lead over to the 41 and the 6 as Doki Bird's going to try and make something happen as he's they're 3 wide. Not all for position. It's going to be Tyroki that takes the race lead. Right now, here comes several drivers coming out, including the 11 Aweebu, who we were just talking about. There's that stack up of cars for 7th on back. Oh, Tyroki, hard in the wall. The leaders, what happened? Oh, no. Weebu on fresh tires dives it in too deep and dumps the 41 out of the race lead. That surrenders it to the 6 of Lucky. I look away for 1 second, and that happened. Wow. Don't avert your eyes too much. That is not a caution, by the way. Lucky goes into the pits. That surrenders the race lead over to the points leader. And Bimble's getting his lap back after pitting. So that's not a pass for the lead. That's a bonus point by the 24. See if anybody comes out this time around. Doesn't look like it. I know some drivers pitted this time. What a lap that was. I look back for 1 second and the leader gets dumped by cars that came out from the pits during the cycle. See, the 24 goes in. They do not. They stay out one more lap. Kason comes in this time. So right now the top three is the 24, the 85, and the 70 of Kobo. You got to watch for this little area on the track there where the exit of the pits are, because the blend line here is the racing line. And these drivers do not these drivers will not understand that until it's too late. Several drivers in this time. Lumen, Soleil, Hano, Fillion, Fruit, Dreamer. There goes Callie, who's coming out of the pits. Iron Mouse, there's Iron Mouse there. Just keeping an eye on this exit right here, seeing where everybody files out at. Kason's filing out in front of Doki Bird. Callie's going to file out in front of Soleil and turns the 420. Hard into the inside wall. Major front end damage. These two just collide, hook onto each other, and oh my god. A quick 360 by the 420. And that is not a caution. At least not at the moment. As several more drivers come into the pits, including the current race leader of Starlight. Wish you could see what's going on here, but you kind of can't. The caution still is not out. So everything's so far fine. Watson currently being scored as the race leader, although Watson's obviously just staying out because they pitted not too long ago and they're trying to just run. They're just trying to run their own race. So right now, Risu is up to second. She's back up to second. Iron Mouse in the top 5 after all is said and done. Top 10 has just been flip-flopped all over the place. Soleil back to 26th. 3 wide behind Merriweather. There's D. There's the pace car, and he's moving, so something happened. The caution's out. There's smoke on the bridge. Something happened on the bridge. Uh-oh. Oh, that's why they were 3 wide. Merriweather, Gura, Hano Mizuki, and DM. They all get into it, and they... Oh, my goodness. Whoa! And then, again, since they're 4 wide, they're getting more and more into it. So they're... yeah. That's dangerous, all right. And this happened just as soon as green flag pit stops came to an end. So no one's being trapped a lap down. As the caution comes out here on lap 103. As you see the top 10, this is who the leader is right now. And it is Watson. Nobody 1 lap down. That the only car that's going to be hitting the pits is going to be this 4 car. I don't think they're going to stay out. They need to pit one more time. Not just because of the fact that they are more than, more than not fine, but they also do not have the fuel. Well, I guess they might have the fuel to make it, but do they want to run on this set of tires? They pitted and came out in front of everybody else. Yeah, there goes the 4 car. So that will surrender the lead back to the 77 to David. And this top 5 is a very interesting top 5 now. So, when we get this restart here, assuming that we go 1 to green next time by, the top 5 is all drivers that have been dominant so far. Well, actually, all but 1 for the most part. Just look at the top 2. Oh, we'll go through it. We'll go through it real quick. We'll get the 1 to go maybe this time by. I don't think we're going to have, yeah. Everybody's getting all situated out here. So it'll be David who's going to take the race lead on this restart. Risu back up to 2nd after getting spun. Lucky climbs to 3rd, or at least falls to 3rd. Iron Mouse climbs all the way back up to 4th after getting spun in front of the pack. Noriboshi with a great stop is in 5th. William, who somehow has climbed up inside the top 10, he's now sitting 6th. Bell's sitting in 7th. Sprite climbs to 8th. And then our points leader in 9th place, Kason, rounds out the top 10. Doki Bird, after getting spun and going into the pits earlier than everybody else, comes out in 11th. Fu in 12th. Tyroki 13th. Simu 14th. Weebu in 15th. Nana 16th. Kobo in 17th. Bao in 18th. Sole with some front-end damage after tagging, or getting tagged. By, I think, I don't remember who it was. It was somebody. I think Callie, 19th. Fruit in 20th. Bimble 21st. Melody 22nd. Dreamer 23rd. Kyoso 24th. Fifi 25th. Merryweather 26th. Mizuki 27th. Gura 28th. Billion 29th. Overdrive in 30th. Lumi 31st. Henya 32nd. And the rest of the field on back. What an interesting race here. 26 laps to go. As green flags back in the air. As they stack up deep in the field behind. Side by side for the lead. David trying to be defensive here going into the first of 2 hairpin turns. I bet that's annoying that I keep saying it like that, but it is what it is. Risu takes the lead away. Battle for 2nd commences. David's going to try and not only take hold of that 2nd spot, but maybe improve it, get it back to the race lead. And Lucky slides all the way up the racetrack to try to take 2nd away from Risu. Who has a very slow restart here. Noriboshi back into the picture here. But here comes William. Ooh, these two are battling not only for the spot that they're battling for, which is 5th, but they're also battling to stay inside the points and try and keep a tight grip on that championship battle. Right now, with the points leader sitting in 9th, just a couple spots behind, any sort of points that they can gain, that is huge. 25 laps to go here at Old Spice. And right now it's David holding on to the point. And if I can't say this, I think David has led the most amount of laps so far in this race. If he hasn't yet, it feels like he has. As he leads another one here on lap 106. Single file, maybe not. Here comes Lucky, side by side, for the race lead. Risu just behind these two. Keeping them at bay right now. Good run on that hairpin turn by Lucky. Trying to make it 2 on this season for the wins. But somebody who's trying to make it 3. The person that they're battling with. You see the 87, a D. They're coming out of the pits. File back through the front here. Not much has changed in terms of positions compared to where they restarted, although a lot of the top 5 has shifted in many ways. Because Risu trying to take the lead away. Not at the moment. They're stacking up big in the back of the field there. I saw Simu struggling to get the car to gripped up. Battle for second behind David at the moment. Risu hanging on. Good recovery. Regardless of what happens in this race, unless the 2-car finishes poorly, which, not trying to jinx it in any shape or way, but the 2 cars back up to second after getting spun outside the top 15. Good recovery by Risu right now. And another good recovery by Iron Mouse, who sits 4th. Again, though, don't want to jinx either one of them, but at this moment, that's a good recovery. And this is the run to the finish, unless we get another caution. But everybody should be good on fuel. It's just a matter of who can save the tires the best. Risu clears and takes the lead away from David. David's going to have to try and fight to keep second away from Lucky. And just behind these two, it's Iron Mouse. And the points leader of Areas climbed up inside the top. Well, he's actually climbed up a few spots, trying to get 6th away from William. I'm going to say inside the top 5, but that's Noriboshi, who is not really having to deal with the 24, but don't look too far behind, because there they are. Noriboshi lost a few spots in the points because of Bristol and not having a good run. And if that 24 passes that 94, it's going to be anything but a net gain by this 94 team today. David's going to lose on a spot here, probably. Side by side with them and the points leader. I keep mentioning it all the time, but one position is 1 point, and the farther up that 24 finishes, it's not much of a gain here overall by anybody behind them in points. Especially when we're entering the second half of the races here. Once we get past the 20th race and go back into those live races, that's when the run to the championship becomes more and more crucial for the drivers that are inside the top 5 in points. A bad finish, you might as well say goodbye to that championship. Now, as we stand on where we're at right now in the points, there are some additional heat races that will be ran. I'll mention this more than a few times in the next few weeks. Once we get past the second quarter of the season and entering the final few races, there will be a few heat races to help out the drivers back in the points to try and maybe have them get damage controlled their way up into the top half of the points. But more on that will be talked about when that time comes. Those 2 races will be, I'll mention them when we actually have the schedule for that pulled up. Because it's not in the next few races. But that is something that we have been talking about, and that is something that will happen late in the season. There will be 2 heat races for the drivers deep in the points. And I mean deep. 15th on back, maybe 20th on back, if I remember correctly. They will have an opportunity to run a heat race to gain as many points as they can before the main race. But again, more details on that will come later. As we see the top 3 tight under a blanket here, Iron Mouse, Lucky, and Area back into the picture here. Area had the lead for a while before they gave it up with the pit stops. And now Risu back in the picture as well, trying to make something happen. So we muster up and down into the 20 to go region, even less than that now, 18 when we cross the line. Starting to get more and more aggressive here by the drivers inside the top 5. The gaps are starting to build between each position. And at this point in time, it's coming down to whether or not you're inside the top 10 with a few laps to go. Regardless of what happens today, unless that 24 gets taken out, it'll be a good finish by this 24 team and will continue to hold that points lead no matter what. So far, though, it's looking like it's Lucky's race to lose. 3 wide behind her. As the 24 hits the 2. As the 2 hit the 22, but the 22 of Iron Mouse is going to hang on to second. Currently, this is the closest battle in terms of how tight it is. But this is also for second spot. $17 to go when we cross the line. It's getting close. Single file through most of the top 10, if not all of the top 10. Here comes Star back to the back for second. We've had a couple of cautions here today to help bunch the field back up, and that might have helped out the 24 to get back up front here. Again, the first time they have been up front all race long, and that came just around the halfway mark of this race. Again, like I said, they started 32nd, but they've climbed all the way back up front. They have managed this race well. Better than anybody else. And they did it last week at Bristol, and they've done it a lot of times this season. Here comes the 24 back for the race lead. We'll get a little loose on that exit there. I think will lead that lap just by a couple hundredths. And does. But on the bridge, Lucky clears and tries to chop the nose off the 24. And what we're looking at right now is a battle for the race lead with 15 laps to go. Out of everybody inside the top three, you would think that everybody inside the top three has won a race this season, considering we have the 24, who's the points leader, and Iron Mouse, who won last week at Bristol. And we got Lucky, who is a winner at Darlington not too long ago. But the 24 of area has not won a race this season. They're still looking for their first win of this season. They have came very close several times this season. They have finished second, arguably the most amount of times compared to everybody else this season. They have finished second probably the most amount of times. They've gotten so close so many times. They have not been able to seal the deal, unlike Lucky and Iron Mouse. Risu is another driver who sits fourth, who has also not won a race this season, but has led a ton of laps here in the last couple of races. And they got Noriboshi, who won our opener back at Daytona, or at least most famously, that's where they won. What we're looking at here is a very tight battle between the top two. Now, Lucky is not really in contention for the points championship at all. So we see Starlight trying to go for the race lead. They stay side by side as they go into the first hairpin here. And the 24 is back out front. With 13 laps to go, now can anybody try and take back that race lead? I was mentioning about Lucky and how she's not really contending for the championship. Lucky currently sitting 19th in points. Trying to go back for the race lead, trying to make it 2 for the win column here. Not the worst that a winner is doing in the championship running. Talladega winner Nana sits 27th at points. They are the worst out of everybody that has won a race so far this season. Right now, Star is going to hang on to the race lead. The closest battle for position is for third, and that's between the two drivers that have been up front a lot this race, if not all of the race, if they didn't get spun during that last green flag run. It's Iron Mouse and Risu. These two are battling once again for a position. Top four are just on top of each other. Not by much, but just on top. There's a bit of a gap till you get to 5th place in Noriboshi, who's also dealing with a couple championship contenders themselves. 12 laps to go here at Old Spice. It'll be tricky to get rid of this 24 from the lead. Once again, they started 32nd. They've driven all the way up to the front here because of the cautions and the pit stops. Now let's see what they can do with just under 11 to go here. They've came so close to winning so many times. Are they going to be able to do it here finally this time? If she manages to pull this off, that points lead is going to expand by a lot. And as the season, I should say, turns into the second half of it, we're starting to see the championship contenders dwindle down. Talked earlier about how we only had about 5, maybe 6 cars contending for the championship lead coming into this race. You get past more than 40 points, it is more than just a race lead for the championship. Now Bell up to 5th place. Noriboshi falls back a couple spots, so that will help out Bell manage some of that deficit, but it's still going to be an increase for this 24's points lead if it stays like this with under 10 laps to go. The gap is being well maintained. About 6.5 to 7/10 of a second. So far, that 24 machine is looking really strong defensively. Nine laps to go here at Old Spice. The gap down to 5/10, but not being challenged any more so than before. Still the closest battle on track's probably going to be that battle for third just behind these two. But Iron Mouse is still going to hang on to that third place spot. Right now, what a lot of drivers need from 5th on back is a final caution. But that's what everybody... Well, that's what the 24 doesn't want to see. Gap now to 7/10. And it's even bigger going to 3rd place. Maybe 3rd on back wants to see a caution. Maybe Lucky wants to see a caution. But if I'm that 24, I don't want to see a caution. That yellow flag waves and my spotter says that the yellow flag is out. I am going into frustration mode. Because right now this 24 is looking strong. Probably the strongest leader we have seen all day long. The only driver that is in any sort of contention for this race win is the 6 car. But the gap's being well maintained under a second. 6 to go. Actually, 7. The gap's still about 0.6 of a second between 1st and 2nd. But no pressure from behind after that. It is just one car that can challenge for this race win. And that's a 6. Iron Mouse and Risu are two full-on seconds behind 2nd place of Lucky. They're also battling each other as well, nose to tail. They are not helping each other right now. And you can see the gap between basically everybody inside the top 5. It is a split duel between everybody. The 24 and the 6 with their own battles. The 22 and the 2 settling their own battles. And then you got the 69 and the 70 trading their own battles. 0.8 of a second now as we hit 6 laps to go. This is what I was talking about earlier here between 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th. Those are battling each other basically as a duel. You got Iron Mouse and Risu battling each other. Then you got side by side between Kobo and Bell. And David's all by himself with a little bit of side damage in 7th. Don't exactly know when he got that, but that definitely wasn't there when he restarted. And that might be hindering him a little bit, but still nothing too major there. There's some 3 wide action going on in the deep of the field between Noriboshi, Melody, and William, with Kason also up in the picture as well. We hit under 5 laps to go here in this race. The gap still being maintained at about a 0.7 second gap. Soleil climbing up to 17th. It's going to make a crossover move underneath the 17 of Fu. Trying to make it to where they can get a good finish out of what was a pretty good race. Turned sour after the green flag pit stop cycle. And Kyoso, who was inside the top 10 at one point in this race, he's going to finish back inside the top 20. Or outside, I should say, the top 20. And Doki Bird, who restarted up front not too long ago, they're going to finish just back inside the top 30. And then there's Watson, who got involved in the first wreck of today. They're going to run without a hood, and they're going to probably either finish 36th or 37th. But all 37 cars still on the lead lap. Watson at one point was 2 laps down, but got a caution, stayed out, got a wave around, got back on 1 lap down, and then got the other lap back after another caution. And Bimble in the same scenario as well, but they got a caution and got on the lead lap again, but they're going to still finish back at 35th or 36th. Weebu, who's our pole sitter today, they're going to probably finish just outside the top 20 after getting spun, and after that, it was just been a day to forget again by that 11 team. Well, one driver that has had this race go their way completely is the 24. Didn't qualify good. Again, started just outside the top 30 and 32nd. But it does not take long. It doesn't take much for this 24 to get back up front. And with 128 laps in the books, they're going to need 2 more good laps around this track. And they will have a massive jump from start to finish. The gap between the top 2 to 3rd place, it is more than 4 seconds. Kobo up to 3rd. Not only past the 69 of Bell, but also the others of both Iron Mouse and Risu. But they are 5 seconds back, and at this point, a caution is not going to do any good for them. It'll just make it to where the final interval is going to be just about a couple tenths. Caution right now is not going to save anybody but the 24. Under 2 laps to go here at Old Spice. A very chaotic first half. And ever since that final restart, it pretty much been a chaotic race. But ever since this 24 has taken the race lead, they have been in control ever since. Not a sliver of challenge by that 6 car. A gap well maintained by between 0.5 to a second. And with the points leader coming into today's race, looking for their first win of the season, what better way to solidify a dominant championship run than by getting a win here today? White flag is out here at Old Spice. A 0.7 of a second gap between first and second. A 4-second gap behind that. Only one car in contention. But they are too far back. They're going to have maybe a couple extra chances here. With this 24 after starting 32nd. Being in the back for the first half of the race. Had a couple good green flag pit stops. And a couple cautions to help. One more time around. The points leader coming into today's race. Looking for their first win of the season. And off the final turn. They're going to get it. Area Starlight wins it at Old Spice. 32nd starting place. First place finishing spot. It does not matter how you start. It matters how you finish. We'll get the full results here when they enter the pits and get ready for next week's race at the Twin Ring Motegi. But if it wasn't a dominant run for the championship already by this 24, this is the statement that'll tell you now it is. Without a shadow of a doubt, the gap between first and second in points will increase by a wide margin. And as the 6-car Lucky gives a celebratory bump to the 24. Another first-time winner here this season. Here in the VTuber Racing 2024 season. Let us quickly run through the final results here for today's race at Old Spice before we get into the points. 17 laps led by the 24 team of Area Starlight. They'll win this race by a second and a half, almost, over Lucky. Kobo almost gaining just as much of a comeback here by the 70 team as they started 30th and finished 3rd. Fruit finishes in 4th. Risu finishes 5th. Iron Mouse in 6th. Bell in 7th. Melody, a good top 10 finish in 8th. Tyroki in 9th. And David finishes the race with 23 laps led, the most of today, in 10th. William will finish 11th. Nana will finish 12th. Kason will finish 13th. Merryweather will finish 14th. Henya will finish 15th. Simu will finish 16th. DJ Overdrive with a nice little comeback near the end of the race there. Starting in 37th, will gain up 20 spots to finish 17th. Noriboshi in 18th, Soleil in 19th, Fu in 20th, Kyoso in 21st, Hano Mizuki 22nd, Weebu, our pole sitter, finishes 23rd, Devious Sprite 24th, Gura in 25th, Lumi 26th, Fifi 27th, Dreamer 28th, Philly in 29th, and Lumen in 30th. And the rest of the field will scroll down as is. 4 cautions today. 39 lead changes traded by 11 different drivers. So only 11 drivers will get a championship point out of that. And those 11 drivers, a lot of them aren't even in contention for the championship running. The only one that really was in championship contention was both the points leader and David. Iron Mouse did lead 20 laps today, but Iron Mouse, coming out of today's race, still sits 10th in the points, which we'll get to here momentarily. Risu leads 19 laps. However, Risu, after all that, still only going to gain, a lot of spots here so far, but they still sit 12th in points. That out of the way, let's finally look at the top 10 in points, or at least the top however I could fit in the TV screen in points. I mean, as we see, the points deficit between first and second has increased. Almost 10 points gained, if not actually a whole 10 points gained. Yes, 10 points gained out of this entire race as Starlight gets their first win of the season and notches 10 extra points here on that gap between them and Bell. Then after that, it is more than a race of a gap, I should say. William sitting 49 points back. Noriboshi and Merryweather tied for 4th with 57 points behind the points leader. And 59 points back is Soleil, who drops to 6th. Then David goes to 7th after dropping a couple more points and now 67 back. Kyoso 8th place in points, 74 back. DJ Overdrive 76 back, and Iron Mouse 82 points back. But of everybody inside the top 10, DJ Overdrive has the least amount of laps led with only 57. Not the least amount in total this season. D sits 19th in points after losing 8 spots. and he'll be the only driver that has not led more than... Actually, there's a couple others that have not led more than 27 laps. There's a ton of drivers that are in the 20s in terms of laps led overall this season. Tyroki, DM, Melody, let's see, who else? I thought there was one other. There might be one other. Nope. Those drivers that I just listed off, they have 28 laps led this season. D only has 27. They are the ones that have the most amount, or the least, I should say, of laps led. So those are the point situation heading into the next race, which is Twin Ring Motegi. That race will be recorded as well as the race at Milwaukee. Once we get to the 20th race of the season, that will be when we return live. Let's see, the 20th race of the season, I'll put it up on the schedule when we get to that point in time. That will be Homestead, Miami. Normally, well, was at one point the finale race of NASCAR Cup Series racing. Now it's Phoenix. Here it'll be just entering the third quarter of our race, or our series season. So that out of the way, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you at the Twin Ring Motegi course in Japan. Take care. Have a good one.